I'm Sonja Shah-Williams. Please keep listening to Voice It Out podcast.
Hi, it's Amrita, and I'm back with another episode of the Voice It Out podcast. You will know, or you might not know, that we have now not chosen to go into seasons, but we will give you some interesting episodes along the way, just not in a seasonal format. Today's guest I'm very excited about because we are going to be talking about the subject of Ayurveda, which in Sanskrit means the knowledge of life. It's essentially, as you may know or you may not know, it's the synergy between your physical self, your spiritual self, and your emotional self, and that synergy of being. I'd like to welcome Sonja Shah-Williams. Hi, Sonja. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you.
I'm really excited to have you on. Just to give you another bit of an introduction, you are an Ayurveda practitioner and you're a teacher and you're an author. And I think it's really exciting because I know from the conversations we've had that you work differently. Now, we will find out in this episode what I mean by that. But just to welcome you on this podcast, because I feel like this is the first of its kind that we've had. You are the first of its kind of guest on this podcast, so welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, I need to ask you, what kind of sparked your interest, should I say, or your kind of way of thinking about Ayurveda?
Well, things happen for a reason. I'm of Indian origin. I've always gone back to India with my family since I was a little girl. My father was very keen for us to know our family in India and have a connection with them. It's very important to him and my mother. So we used to always go back. And once I was old enough, I knew that Ayurveda was something in India. And everybody in my family seemed to have an Ayurveda doctor, practitioner, who they wanted to help with their health with, but they also had conventional allopathic doctors. So I was always intrigued by this notion of, well, who are these Ayurveda people? So I always knew the word. I didn't perhaps at that stage want to delve further, but it was something that was very much part of my being. And then many years ago, I wanted to find out whether I could train in Ayurveda, not go to India and do it because I had a young family, but I wanted to find out, looked around. Eventually, at the right time, this is what happens in life, I came across a degree course, which was the first of its kind outside India and Sri Lanka, in London, not far from me. So that's when I embarked on studying it because I had a feeling that it was something that was part of me and it was part of my DNA, which sounds a bit weird, but I had a recruitment business for many years, and I felt I needed to shift my life in some way. I was a mother. I wanted to find out more about Ayurveda and study at a deep level, which is what I did. So that's how it came about, really.
I think that's really interesting. I didn't even know there was such a course that existed in London. So that's really exciting to know. I think what you've explained, I think, is quite interesting in terms of you felt like you kind of had a connection from quite early on, as opposed to, I'm just going to study this because I've got an interest.
Yeah.
It felt like, I kind of feel like you had a deep connection with it from the start.
Definitely.
So do you think that connection kind of deepened after you did the course because you learned much more, or you kind of felt personally driven to it as well?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think from the minute I started studying, I could see that I understood the lecturers, I understood the Sanskrit, I understood the terminology, the understanding, the deeper understanding. I seemed to get it where a lot of my contemporaries didn't. And that's probably purely because a lot of them weren't Indian and so had never maybe had it within their family or within their everyday lives, or going to India and discovering it. I think I do believe very strongly in the fact that, because you have to, if you understand Ayurveda at a deep level, that we have a soul, and if you believe in reincarnation and the reincarnation of the soul, then I believe I did it in another life. And that's why it came to me readily. And that's why I sought it out. And that's why I understood it. That's what I truly believe.
Do you think that your faith, now obviously I don't know what faith you are, but do you think there was an element of your faith kind of giving you that, if you believe you have a soul and reincarnation, do you think that contributed a lot to the way you kind of, I guess, were drawn to Ayurveda?
I think again, that's interesting because I am of Jain, of the Jain faith, way of life, if you like, which is an offshoot of Hinduism, closely related to Buddhism. But I was never told about it by my parents. Nobody sat me down and said, we are Jain, this is what Jainism means. But everything I believe and everything I feel, it actually does relate to Jainism. Not all of it, because it can be quite extreme. But so much of its philosophy is related to the philosophy of Ayurveda, which is related to the philosophy of India and its cultural background. And so it all just seemed right for me to be able to learn Ayurveda and offer it to other people. I felt that it was a calling.
That's really interesting. And I think that is probably why when you talk about it, I feel like I can immediately feel how you feel about it in a way. And I think that's such a nice kind of way to feel about someone who is so passionate about something they're doing in their life kind of thing. Yeah. And as you said, you had a slight pivot and you said you wanted to do this kind of a little bit later in your life. Yeah. Do you think that it was where you were in your life that you kind of thought, okay, I want to do this now, even though I felt the connection before? Or did you always think, no, this is going to be something I'm always kind of passionate about? Maybe might not take it as a career.
I was always obsessed with health.
Okay.
My father was a GP.
Right.
I was always obsessed with going to see his patients with him, obviously not going in to see his patients. I'd go on his calls in the car when I was a very young girl. Weekend calls. I'd say, can I come with you? I'd ask him about his patients. Nice. I was always obsessed with my own, what am I eating? Is it good for me? Even when I didn't really know that much about whether it was good for me or not, I just felt very drawn to the wider subject of health. And, I used to go jogging before school and I was very conscious of my own being. And I had this desire to nurture my own being from a very young age. So I think that the stage of my life I was at when my children were younger, but they were old enough for me to go off and go back to university. And I think it was definitely a point that I'd reached where I thought there is more to life. I've been doing a job that earned me a lot of money. It was very much a job about earning money, but it didn't feed my soul. At that stage of my life, it didn't feed my soul anymore. So I think it just was the right time. Yeah.
I think that's amazing that you did that you kind of followed your passion, even after having that, like you said, that kind of job, because a lot of people would have been like, this is it, I'm making money. Yeah. I don't need to feed my soul, so to speak. Yeah. But I think that's really amazing. So I commend you on that, definitely. We've spoken a little bit about your thoughts being slightly different and your way of doing Ayurveda or kind of teaching it, educating people about it is slightly different. If I was to ask you in just an overall kind of question, how do you think the principles of Ayurveda kind of relate to today's world?
Very simply, the principles of Ayurveda are eternally true. They cannot be refuted. So you could read the textbooks, which are some 2,500 years old, whatever. You could read them. You could never, I would ask anyone to try and refute the knowledge held within them. It's very sacred, it's very divine, but it's very logical. And so the principles apply to every human being, everything in life, no matter what stage of life, where you live, male, female, anything, the seasons, it all applies to everybody, but also we're all very unique. So the way we are made, if you like, our constitution is very unique to us. So that's what we have to hold on to, that we're always trying from birth, if you like, to go back to that place of balance. But how do we get to that place of balance? We have to know ourselves. We have to know how we're made. We have to know something about Ayurveda. So if you come to someone like me, you understand at a deeper level, how am I made? What is my constitution? Which aspects of me are right for me and which aspects can go out of balance and create potential imbalance and disease. So it's the body is able to talk to us and say, I'm not happy. And that shows in symptoms. And as long as we get to those symptoms at an early stage, we nip them in the bud. Once they become chronic, it's harder to rebalance. But still, Ayurveda can rebalance people as long as they're willing to have their own role in their life. So it's very much about having agency, having autonomy in your life, not relying as we do nowadays on other people to fix us, which has become chronic in itself, that we're all, in all aspects of our lives, not just our health. I always say health in inverted commas, because for me, we don't have to look for health. We have to look inside and know ourselves. And then health or balance follows.
Right.
So it's, it's about each person understanding their unique, really reveling in their uniqueness, but those principles will not change. So the principles I will use for you to help you will not change. It's just obviously each little aspect of it is tweaked for you. Right. But once you know the principles, you can apply them actually a lot on your own, to your own life.
So the next question I want to ask you is actually, as you said, kind of about balance. The thing that was going through my head when I was hearing your answer is that I think in our world at the moment, there's so much imbalance because we have so many external influences. Yeah. Maybe go back 20, 40 years ago, we wouldn't have had them. Yeah. The biggest one that I can think of is social media and the fact that we are always on news. Yeah. And I feel like even, for example, if I give you an example of my personal self, I feel like I get quite influenced mood-wise if there's something big going on in the world that is quite troubling or problematic, which there is at the moment. There's a lot of stuff. How does one kind of, I don't want to say completely rely on Ayurveda, but in the way that you work, how do we balance that kind of thing? Because that's really difficult because, like I said, we are an always switched on society. Yeah.
I think the first thing is that we have to remove ourselves as much as we can from external influences. I know it's not easy, but we have to realise that we can only control what we can control. So most things, larger things, external forces, wars, political unrest, all of the stuff that's going on right now in modern life, which is very unique, actually, we can't change it. So people constantly talk about, well, these world leaders, these despots, how are we going to... We can't change them. We can only change what is within our world. And so when we make small changes in our world, we feel a sense of control. And it's all about control or lack of. Yeah. So I think we all think as human beings, I'm in control of this, I'm doing a to-do list, I'm in control of my day, I'm ticking off my things. But actually, it's just about control, because we can put what we like on a to-do list. We could just put, have breakfast, go to bed at 10. And if we tick the boxes, we feel we've got control. Yeah. But in terms of how we utilise the knowledge of Ayurveda, obviously we can't unless we know about Ayurveda. But its principles are very much about being at one with oneself. So being compassionate with oneself, not beating oneself up because I did something wrong today. I wish, punishing ourselves. I did this and I shouldn't have done this. Always owning our actions. But also, as I say to all of my clients, every time I teach people about Ayurveda, it's that you come from a kind place towards yourself and others. Always come with the right intention. And also pause. So we don't pause in modern life. True. So when you pause and reflect, you make the right decisions more often. Not always, maybe, because we're all going to have knee-jerk reactions sometimes. We're human beings. Let's not beat ourselves up. But if I have had a conversation with someone that I feel has been a bit hostile or a bit mean or whatever, with somebody I know or whatever, I will then, before I react, and this has been a lot of learning for me as well, because I'm a sensitive person. I do take in other people's energies a lot. I will just say to myself, what happened there? I'll take myself away. I'll reflect. Let me think about that. What did that person say? What might have been going on for them in their day? Most people don't want to be unkind. Yeah. They sometimes are unkind because they feel guilty, they feel upset. So we have to be grounded in ourselves. Know that we're a good person. Know that we come from a good place, and everything else follows. So all these external influences, let's not be influenced by them. We can do it. We have to come from a higher place. And Ayurveda teaches us to live through the higher mind and through the soul, rather than through just that sort of the lower mind, if you like, which is sort of knee-jerk reactions. Yeah. I don't like that person because they said this. I'm not going to associate with them anymore. That wastes a relationship that could be a wonderful relationship because of the knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
So does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. So it kind of relates to what I was thinking about you, what you said about intentions.
Yeah.
Like always come from a good place of intention.
Yeah.
But obviously, and this is something that I've also learned over the years, is you're not always going to be the good person. You're not always, in every situation, you're not always going to have good intentions. That could be, like you've said, because you are upset about something.
Yeah.
Just as you are saying, you could say that someone else has had something going on and they've reacted in that way. You could be that person as well, right? Yeah. So I wanted to ask you that, is it okay, I don't know if that's the right way of phrasing it, is it okay to be kind of sometimes not the person with the good intention, but then reflect on it and say, okay, this wasn't the right thing to do. I will make sure that I react differently next time, or I will make sure I know that this is my trigger or something like that. Yeah. Is it okay to, because I feel like, especially as women, we beat ourselves up a lot about different things, various different things that might be going on in one day or one moment. You might have different things that you're juggling every moment, as women usually do, and that often means that we might project a different energy than what we really are. I was going to ask you, so if you're not genuinely, and you know that you're not coming from a good place, and it could be for whatever reason, how do you not beat yourself up about it, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I think being kind and compassionate to oneself always, knowing that we are going to make mistakes, or we're going to maybe behave in a way that is not our true self. I think it's very important, first of all, to forgive ourselves. But also, communication's a big thing for me. Yeah. There is a real lack of honest, clear communication in modern life. Again, because people are busy, it's frenetic, people feel they don't have time to explain to others. And so to communicate to someone, I'm really sorry I behaved like this yesterday. I've reflected on it. It was my bad. I should not have behaved like that. But you know what? I just had some bad news. And I should have just paused and not spoken to you on that phone call at that time. That was unfair to you. And I really do apologize. Do you know what? That heals so much. And people are scared to say sorry. People are scared to be vulnerable. People are scared to say, I messed up a bit. People want to be perfect. And again, we are told in modern life and by social media, and social media projects this image of everything's got to be perfect. But to me, there is no such thing as perfect. It's an illusion. That word shouldn't exist. What does perfect mean? Yeah. So let's take that word away. Let's just say that I'm coming from a good place. Sometimes I will mess up, but I will own that and I will apologize to people. And I will genuinely say, I'll reflect on how I behaved. Next time, you know what? I won't have that phone call with that person if I'm upset. I'll say, can we rearrange? Yeah. Because I'm not feeling great today.
Yeah.
Many people in my life don't communicate well, because I believe most people are scared to communicate well for all the reasons I've just mentioned. I do try and communicate as clearly as possible, and I think it scares people sometimes because I don't think people are used to it. Yeah. And I just think even if people behave or respond in a way that I might not like, I can't change that, but I can change me. So I can say, Amrita, I'm really sorry that I spoke like that to you. That's not my genuine intention. It wasn't my genuine intention, and I'm sorry. And I hope you can forgive me because, let's start again or whatever. Yeah. That's a huge thing. Yeah. And I do think it takes guts, but I've got the guts because I don't want unclear communication with people. And in Ayurveda, actually, it says we must be clear at all times with ourselves and others. We need to go back to basics. And I think people, a few decades ago, people didn't have influences like social media and whatever, and this is how I should behave. And people just did have more time. Things weren't as frenetic to reflect. I think that's gone out of the window now.
Yeah, I mean, I think reflecting on your own behaviors or even how you might be feeling that might be influencing something in your life, like the way you work or something. I think that's really important. And I did speak to actually one of my other guests, not Ayurveda related, about how uncomfortable it is to sit with your own feelings, no matter what the feeling is. And from an Ayurveda perspective, I just wanted to ask you, because sitting with your own feelings is not comfortable a lot of the time. And I think that's where people kind of try to kind of stay away and almost block it out in a way.
Yes.
And because Ayurveda is about, like you said, knowing yourself really well.
Yeah.
How do you incorporate that and make sure you are sitting with your feelings, for want of a better phrase, and make sure that you are getting to know yourself? Because if that is one of the major principles of it, and we find that really hard, surely it takes time, but it's not unachievable, right?
I think that our mind comes into play when we're uncomfortable with our own feelings. So our mind will say, oh, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like where this is going. I don't want to remember that experience I had in the past that made me feel uncomfortable, because our mind creates stories, but our mind is not us. Our soul, the deeper essence of us, is our true self. So the mind is going to play tricks on us. It's going to make us feel uncomfortable. When we step away from the mind and quieten our thoughts, which happens in meditation, but happens in reflection. When you meditate, your mind is not at play. You are just at one with yourself. So the thoughts will come in and they'll sort of come in and out. They'll come in and out. Yes, you have to see those thoughts, and your mind, you have to see them. But there's no judgment. With your soul, with your core essence, there is no judgment, because your soul is non-judgmental. It just is your pure energy. So it's good to be uncomfortable. It is good to be uncomfortable. And I do work with people a lot on their past relationships and their influences from childhood onwards. And you can see a pattern of why people feel uncomfortable, because it triggers an experience from the past. That's what makes them feel uncomfortable. And so they put that into the current experience. So I would say be uncomfortable. It's like things such as grief. Certainly in the West, people want to get over grief. Well, you can't get over grief, but people want to move on as quickly as possible. I'm going back to work next week, even though I've had this terrible bereavement. I'm going back to work because I want to just keep busy. That's not the way to deal with grief, because it will come back to bite you all the time because you haven't processed it. And it's an ongoing thing anyway for life. I say in my audiobook, actually, I talk about grief. And my father died many, many years ago. You don't get over grief. Your shape changes, and you learn to accept your new shape with grief within that shape. And so I think about my father all the time, and he died many years ago. I dream about him a lot. He influences me a lot, and he guides me a lot. And I still, on his anniversary, will sometimes each year I'll wake up really crying. Other years I won't, but I sit with it, and I think how wonderful that he's with me. That's why I'm crying, because he's there with me. And so we have to not be uncomfortable with any human feelings, because they're there for a reason. So be uncomfortable, because that's when you'll process. In Ayurveda, if you do not process or digest your feelings, your emotions, they get stored in your deeper tissues, in the connective tissues. That creates disease. So we must not store emotions. We need to deal with them, digest them.
So that's when it brings in the physical part of you, right? So I was going to ask you about this, because in my head, your physical being is obviously your body, but what about it specifically does Ayurveda say that you should be? What kind of state should it be in? How do you, like you said, how do you know that if you are storing these emotions or deep kind of grief or anything like that, how do you know that that is being stored and it is physically coming out in a different way? Is there a way of knowing?
Physically, you'll know because you'll have symptoms.
Right.
And they can be, when people come to me with a symptom or a few symptoms, they say, I have terrible digestive issues and I'm coming to you because I want to deal with them. And these are my symptoms. Right. So, of course, that is a physical manifestation. That's real. However, usually that physical aspect is not what's causing those symptoms.
So it's something emotional, maybe.
It's usually the physical aspect is the demonstration of the body not being happy, in balance, in equilibrium. But often it's emotional, well, and physical and spiritual, which many clinicians don't deal with the spiritual. Ayurveda is the only science and philosophy of life that also pays great homage to the spiritual, which many people don't even know how to define, certainly in the West. But so, of course, you'll get the physical manifestations, you'll get the physical symptoms. So with the digestive issues, people might say, this is what's happening with my digestion or not. I'm getting bloating or burning, whatever it might be. But because I question everything, the emotional, relationships, background, upbringing, job, relationships with partners, with siblings, with everything. No stone is left unturned. I then get every bit of information I need. I've got the physical manifestations. I'm writing all of those down. Have you had medications prescribed for them? How long have you had these symptoms? All of that, of course, is part of it. But the other two parts are equally important, the emotional and the spiritual. So, of course, digestion physically of your food and your beverages has to take place, but so does emotional digestion. So if you've got physical symptoms of indigestion, often it's emotional indigestion.
Right.
So, but obviously you can't, the emotional will be, somebody might say, well, yes, I'm not sleeping very well, or I keep having dreams about this thing that happened to me years ago. It's never left me. So that's the emotional aspect. Okay, well, this is causing the blockages. And each person's unique. So you might have digestive symptoms because of an emotional part of your makeup that is not at ease. Somebody else, I might have insomnia because of an emotion. Do you see what I mean? It's very unique to each person. So it doesn't mean that everybody will have physical digestive problems with an emotional component. It is so unique to each person. And I see that person as a whole unique person individually, that you're not going to be like the next person. That's what's so beautiful about Ayurveda.
So whenever you are talking to clients with such kind of physical symptoms, is it, obviously they're coming to you for a reason, so this might be a bit of a weird question to ask. They're coming to you because of your Ayurvedic knowledge, and if there is a physical symptom that they want kind of to deal with or get treated, whatever it is, how easy or hard is it for you to then explain to them that this is related to the other parts of who you are, your past or whatever it might be? Because the way I see it is they're coming to you for a reason, so they would know that maybe you would connect, that you would use that as some sort of connection somewhere. But does it get difficult with clients as well to kind of explain to them that maybe you haven't dealt with this, so therefore this is your physical symptom?
On the whole, over the years, I think that people come to me because subconsciously they want more than just the physical healing, if you like. I always think people have come to me for a reason. And if they stay with me and work with me, they see a huge transformation take place in their lives, every aspect of their lives. And I would say that people's relationships often massively improve where they felt there was no hope. People have talked to me about their marriages, their long-term partnerships. It's not working. We're having a really tough time. Once they start working on themselves, once they start looking at their physical, emotional, spiritual being, essence, they realize they're in control of every aspect of their lives, including their relationship, because often the person is not at a place where they want help, their partner. So do you see what I mean? So if somebody comes to me, they're looking at themselves, every aspect of themselves, but they have got the ability to transform every aspect, including their relationship. So they might not come to me, of course, about their relationship. Once we start talking, especially in the first session with the form that, that they fill in and that we discuss everything, they soon realize that things are not right in their emotional lives, and that has contributed to their physical manifestations. So they're very open to that. Sometimes people will come to a point after maybe a few weeks or whatever where they say, this is quite painful for me I don't want to address my relationship right now, or particularly if it's a past relationship, like with a parent, with their mother. Horrible things can happen to people. And so we look at that, and when somebody says, I can't go there right now, I have got one client I've been working with for a long time. She's wonderful. A lot of what's happened to her, she's very self-aware, but a lot of what's happened to her has come about because of her childhood and her understanding of how her mother was with her. So that relationship's not really the way she'd like it to be at the moment, but she's really worked on herself so much that she's now getting to that stage where she sees she can transform that relationship. She's an adult, but she wants to transform that relationship with her mother into something new, because it can't be an old way of being because it started in her childhood, but it can be a new way. And I've showed her that relationships do evolve. And when you're an adult and you're looking at your relationship, say with a parent, you have to look through a new lens and you have to see it as something that can become a beautiful new relationship. Yes, you're a bit sad about what it might not have been in the past, but that's over. You can't resurrect that, but you can change it for the better for the future. And that's wonderful, because then you have a relationship that you want with that person that perhaps you would have just not dealt with. So I'm amazed by her ability to see all that, but it's taken time, and we haven't fully dealt just with that, but we're coming to it with everything else that we've been dealing with. So it's, on the whole, people are wanting to look at the other aspects of their lives because they know they're not working for them.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. And I think that's a great living example of what Ayurveda is really and what we're trying to say. Sonja, I'm going to have to wrap up, but at our end section, we usually do a this or that section in case the conversation gets intense. So just calm it down slightly. So I will start on the this or that. There's only 6.
Yeah.
Some of them are related to you. Some of them are completely unrelated.
Right.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, sweet or spicy?
Spicy.
Oh, that's nice. Soak in the sun or stay in the shade?
Stay in the shade.
Love it. Woman after my own heart. Too much sleep or too little sleep?
Too much.
Oh, I think I get overtired if I sleep too much. So I love that you answered that. Sitting with your feelings or talking about your feelings?
Sitting first and definitely talking. Yeah,
cool.
Sitting with them is important, very important.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Overpacker or light packer?
Used to be overpacker, getting better.
I want to get to that stage. Okay, last one. Ice cream or milkshake?
Oh, probably milkshake. Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's been really lovely talking to you. I'm going to just ask you to share where we can find you on your socials, please.
Okay, so my Instagram is at Anala Ayurvedic Health. Hopefully you can put that on the...
Definitely, we will tag you.
On the information. Website is anala.co.uk. So, yeah.
So Anala is spelled Anala. It's exactly how it's pronounced, just in case you want to look for that website.
Yeah.
Sonja, I'm going to say this because I have said that we are going to have a different episode. Next time you come on is going to be about a different thing, but we're going to look a little bit more into Ayurveda and a little bit more into kind of the intricacies of it in the modern world. Yeah. I think we've given a great intro, but I feel like we could have gone on for many more hours. So I'm so sorry to cut it short.
Not
but
at all.
Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you so much. And I think that having someone like you on our podcast will give it a completely different dimension. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on.
Absolute pleasure.
So this is Amrita signing out. I can't believe that we have finished this episode already. I had so many more questions, but we will have Sonja back on at some point, and I hope you can join us then. I want to say thank you to DJ Shy Guy, who composed our jingle, which obviously we've had from season 1. So a big thank you to him. And remember, we don't want to keep it in. We want to voice it out. Bye.